Good afternoon. It's Thursday, the 13th of August. I'm Erin Viner, and this is IBA News broadcasting from Jerusalem. We open with the announcement from Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu that an agreement has finally been reached with a consortium on natural gas production in the Mediterranean Sea, and that a framework of the plan will be submitted for the government's approval on Sunday. IBA's Eli Wogelenter has the story.
After months of talks over the government's initial proposal in June, the controversial deal will allow Texas-based Noble Energy and Israel's Delek Group to keep ownership of the largest offshore field, Leviathan. They are required to sell off other assets, including stakes in another large deposit called Tamar. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu announced at a news conference that the outline will bring Israel hundreds of billions of shekels in the coming years, and that he'll present the agreement to the cabinet on Sunday for a vote. The deal sent Israel's energy, oil, and gas stocks up 5 to 6% by afternoon trading in Tel Aviv. One change to the initial plan is that the price of gas for Israeli consumers in the new agreement will be lower, while the developers will also commit to invest $1.5 billion in developing Leviathan over the next 2 years. Netanyahu had been adamant in seeking a deal that would allow Leviathan, one of the world's largest offshore discoveries of the past decade, to be developed. He had faced a coalition crisis over details of the plan, with those opposed claiming that the government gave in to most of the company's demands, leaving Noble and Delek with too much power since they would control most of Israel's gas reserves. Government officials argue the current deal was the best they could achieve in ensuring there were no further delays in developing the gas field that sits 130 kilometers off Israel's Mediterranean coast. With estimated reserves of 622 billion cubic meters, Leviathan is slated to begin production in 2018 or 2019 and expected to supply billions of dollars of gas to Egypt and Jordan in addition to supplying Israel. Energy Minister Yuval Steinitz said that years of delays of developing Leviathan, which was discovered in 2010, has cost Israel tens of billions of shekels. Eli Wogelenter, IBA News.
In regional news, the Syrian army has reportedly lost significant ground to well-armed opposition forces after retreating to new defensive lines in northwestern Syria. Videos posted on social media sites claim to show the troops fleeing from the Sal al-Gab plain that is considered to be a region of vital strategic importance to President Bashar al-Assad. The rebels include the al-Qaeda-linked Nusra Front, who are believed to have captured at least 40% of the plain, advancing to the eastern edge of the mountains that form the historical heartland of Assad's minority Alawite clan. The loss of the territory is the latest in a series this year that saw Assad lose parts of the south and central areas of the Arab Republic to a wide variety of factions. The Syrian Observatory for Human Rights estimates that the regime now holds just a quarter of the country. For now, it remains in control of Damascus, where heavy battle between the sides claimed dozens of lives over the past 24 hours. At least 31 residents of the capital are believed to have been killed in government airstrikes and another 13 in rebel shelling, with more than 100 others injured. More than 250,000 people have been killed over the last 4 years of the conflict. The opposition bombardment of Damascus came just ahead of the arrival of Iranian Foreign Minister Mohammad Javad Zarif, who was greeted by Syria's deputy foreign minister before he engaged in talks with President Assad. Zarif reportedly visited the country to promote a new plan from the Ayatollahs in Tehran to resolve the Syrian civil war. Iran remains one of the Assad regime's strongest supporters, despite the view of Western and Gulf Arab nations that he must relinquish power as part of any long-term solution to the crisis. Efforts aimed at ending the war in Syria also dominated meetings that Zarif held earlier in the day with officials in Lebanon, who included the foreign minister, Gebran Basel, and the Speaker of the Parliament, Nabi Berri. He also conferred with Palestinian factions in Lebanon, as well as the leader of the Hezbollah terror organization, Sheikh Hassan Nasrallah, who heads the most powerful military force in the country and is also a key political player as well. According to comments from Zarif, he said he tried to advance greater cooperation between the various countries in the region and Iran, and mentioned how the recently signed nuclear deal can help to improve that. Turning to the U.S.-led campaign against the Islamic State, and for the first time, manned airstrikes were launched from an airbase in Turkey, although according to a statement from the Combined Joint Task Force, drone missions against ISIS have taken off from the Incirlik compound earlier this month, shortly after Ankara's decision to open its strategically important bases to the Allies. The major change in policy follows years of Ankara's reluctance to assume any kind of a frontline role against the radical Islamist insurgents who are pressing on Turkey's borders from Syria. Turkish jets were not among the U.S. warplanes that were involved in the Wednesday airstrikes. The Islamic State-affiliated terror group in the Sinai is claiming to have beheaded its first Western hostage. The group released a video on August 5th showing Tomislav Salopek of Croatia on his knees in front of a masked terrorist in fatigues holding a knife. The Egyptian terrorists, formerly known as the Ansar al-Makdis, now call themselves the Sinai province after pledging allegiance to ISIS. They threatened to murder Salopek within 2 days unless Muslim women held in Egyptian jails were not released. The 31-year-old father of two was captured on July 22nd in the desert outside of Cairo, where he was working for a French company specializing in oil and gas. A photograph of the Croatian's headless corpse was released with a statement saying that he was killed after the expiration of the deadline and because of his country's participation in the war against the Islamic State. In other news, former U.S. President Jimmy Carter has announced that he has cancer and will undergo treatment as soon as possible. The 90-year-old politician complained of not feeling well and cut short a trip to Guyana in May, where he'd gone to observe national elections. According to the Carter Center in Atlanta, the 39th president underwent elective surgery at Emory University Hospital to remove a small mass in his liver when it was then discovered that cancer has spread to other parts of his body. Carter said that he will release a more complete statement when additional facts become known. The Ben Gurion International Airport is set to mark another record breaker today, with nearly 80,000 travelers expected to pass through the terminals on 457 flights. There was nearly a terrible accident between a passenger jet and a mysterious unmanned drone aircraft earlier this week, though, which wasn't the first time that such a threat has occurred, as we hear in this report from IBA's Aria O'Sullivan.
It happened on Monday, just as Brussels Airlines Flight 3289 was about to land, when the pilot suddenly detected a threat to the Airbus, with 160 passengers and crew aboard. A drone zoomed from the right to the left, less than 100 meters from the airliner. Pilots say they were so close they could see it had 4 rotors and immediately reported it to the air traffic controllers. Miraculously, it did not end in tragedy. It was flying at 4,000 feet, and it's not clear who was operating the drone along the approach route in such a dangerous way. Experts say the drone had either escaped and surged to the unusual altitude, or someone intentionally flew it there. The Israel Airports Authority launched an investigation, but as of this moment have not been able to locate the operators of the drone. Sightings of drones flying around airliners have surged around the world this year.
Breaking news, though, a local pilot who says a drone was under his plane while he tried to land at Sky Harbor.
Even more concern tonight over drone dangers after pilots spotted 4 more of them near Newark Airport. Their planes were landing when the drone surfaced last night.
Many of those operating drones are doing so without the knowledge of their restrictions. Drones could also be used by terrorists, and the United States is taking the threat very seriously.
Tonight there's a new warning out from federal officials here in Washington. The Department of Homeland Security says terrorists could use drones to bring down planes.
The concern spiked after a flight from Richmond, Virginia had a close call with the drone this weekend at JFK Airport in New York.
The rules for flying drones require the user to be in visual contact at all times with it, keeping it below 50 meters and at least 8 kilometers from an airport.
Saw the drone at 3,000 here.
You saw the drone, what altitude?
3,000 feet, it was probably about 400 off our left wing.
Technology has made drones more affordable and sophisticated. They have many benefits, but misuse can see a small drone take down an airliner with all its passengers. Aria O'Sullivan for IBA News.
Hamas officials are saying that they have successfully dismantled an Israeli drone that they claim crashed in Gaza last month, and that it's now operational for use by its military wing after being reassembled. The terror organization touted its use of the UAV as a great achievement that demonstrates the strength of the Palestinian people. The IDF has declined to comment on the Hamas claims. Clashes erupted between supporters of hunger-striking Palestinian prisoner Mohammed Alan and Jewish demonstrators near the Barzilai Hospital in Ashkelon, where he's being treated. Mounted police and other security personnel dispersed those gathered and detained a number of the protesters, although there were no reported injuries. Supporters of Alan, who is an Islamic Jihad activist being held without trial, say that they fear that he will be force-fed following enactment of legislation a month ago that permits physicians to administer nutrition against prisoners' will in efforts to save their lives. The Israel Medical Association is vehemently opposed to the plan, saying that it's not only a form of torture, but it's also medically risky, and is urging the nation's healthcare providers not to abide by it. Owners of businesses in Tel Aviv demonstrated last night against construction of the light rail system over the closure of their shops and subsequent lack of income for some, if not all, of the 6.5 years that it will take to build it. The protesters claimed that they weren't given enough advance notice from the municipality about a timetable for construction so that they could make appropriate plans, and they are demanding compensation for their losses. The protest was held at the city's Ma'ariv Bridge, which will be blown up to make room for some of the light rail stations. The controlled detonation is tentatively scheduled to take place next week, although the interchange beneath the flyover has already been closed to traffic. And now turning to an anti-Semitic incident in the U.S. state of Texas, where unknown perpetrators painted symbols, including swastikas, on more than 30 cars, homes, buildings, and signs in a predominantly Jewish neighborhood of the city of San Antonio. The graffiti was first spotted by worshipers as they left for morning prayers at the Orthodox Rodfei Shalom synagogue. The windows on an SUV belonging to one of the congregants were smashed with a rock, and the word Jew was spray painted on the vehicle. The painting of another swastika was also found on a monument to victims of the Holocaust. Police are investigating the vandalism, but say that they currently have no leads as to who is responsible. Paris is going ahead with today's celebration of Tel Aviv Day as part of its annual Beach on the Seine festival, although with added security. Some 300 police are on duty at the site, which is located between two bridges near the famous Notre Dame Cathedral. The festival includes Israeli music, food stands, and of course matkot, otherwise known as paddleball. Left-wing critics have been opposing the event because they accuse it of promoting Israel, which they accuse of war crimes. The event is held in the heart of Paris for a month each summer, when the banks of the river are transformed into a makeshift beach, including the sand and the requisite sun worshippers. Tel Aviv was selected as a motif, along with other foreign seaside cities. Here in Jerusalem, the mixed Jewish-Arab hand-in-hand school, torched by extremist right-wing Jewish brothers last November, filed a complaint with police over a threatening comment posted on the Waze navigational app. Hebrew words reading, "May their names be erased," had been added to the school's name and location on the popular Google-owned site, widely used by drivers to reach their destinations. After it was brought to their attention earlier this week, Waze officials deleted the remark and banned the responsible user from the interactive app. After their conviction of the arson attack at the school, Nachman and Shlomo Twito were sentenced last month to spend 2 years in prison.
We're seeing trends of violence within the Jewish Israeli society, within the Palestinian society, within the Palestinian Israeli society, between religious and seculars, between men and women. I'm afraid it's just one thing, that shows a trend, a general trend.
I think there's personal fears. Parents of children in this school want to know that their children are safe. But more than that, there is a greater fear as to where is our society going to? Is it just going to get more and more extreme as time goes by, or will there be a serious say from our politicians, from our leadership, from society at large, that this is it? We can't continue like that anymore. And we must put an end to this violence and these attacks.
75 Torah scrolls were dedicated at the Western Wall in Jerusalem's Old City last night in memory of the soldiers and civilians killed during last summer's conflict with Hamas. Those present at the ceremony included President Reuven Rivlin, Defense Minister Moshe Ya'alon, and IDF Chief of Staff Lieutenant General Gadi Eisenkot. The holy books will be delivered to different branches of the Yad Lebanim Soldiers Welfare House. One of the scrolls was the same one that was used by then IDF Chief Rabbi Shlomo Goren when he first came to the Western Wall after the Old City was liberated by the army during the Six-Day War. Another was donated all the way from Montreal.
I think it's one of the best ways that we can honor our soldiers through Torah, which is the center in Judaism, the most holy, the only thing that is emet. And Bezrat Hashem, I hope this will help to elevate their neshamot.
Another Torah scroll in memory of the 3 Israeli teens murdered by Palestinian terrorists last summer was also dedicated at the Western Wall. The families of Eyal Efrach, Gilad Sher, and Naftali Frankel were present at the service, which was presided over by Chief Ashkenazi Rabbi David Lau and Chief Sephardi Rabbi Yitzchak Yosef, as well as other leading rabbis.
Today we are in a very complicated event because from one hand, today it's Sefer Torah for the memorial of our 3 boys, and there is a lot of deep pain of all what had happened, and we can feel it every day and every week. But from the other hand, it's a great zchut for us that we can take this Sefer Torah and put it here in the Kotel, because I think that the symbol of the 3 boys was the unity of Kol Am Yisrael all this year, and especially in all the time of the kidnapping. And I think the most special place in Israel to show this unity is here in the Kotel, that everyone can feel it belong to this place. And we hope that from here we can continue with the unity all of the years ahead.
The new docudrama called Sabina depicts the story of the terrorist hijacking of the airliner to Israel's Lod airport in 1972 and will premiere here in the country this week. Prime Minister Netanyahu and his predecessor in office, Ehud Barak, came to Jerusalem Cinema City for an advanced screening of the film about the IDF operation in which they were both active that freed the hostages 43 years ago at the airport that was later named after Ben Gurion. Here now is a brief clip of Sabina.
אף אחד לא בוחר במוות, ואף אחד לא בוחר ללכת למות.
Whatever injustice is committed, one must stand against it and resist it.
We are hijacking the aeroplane. Fly to Lud now.
I'm gonna read the names of the prisoners. You write the names down and arrange the release.
If you cause any problem, I'll blow the plane up. Everybody will die here.
Don't try me.
Sit down and be quiet.
We hijacked this plane to release our brothers in the Israeli jail. If the Israeli government cares about you, they will release them.
If they don't release them?
We will blow up the plane.
אמרתי שאנחנו קודם כל ניתן למחות ונראה מה לעשות.
היה רצון לגרום קודם כל לכך שהמטוס הזה לא יוכל לעמוד.
Control tower, can you hear me? I want you to take off now.
There are 100 hostages. There is a 6-year-old girl. My wife is also on board the plane.
לא יכולתי לדעת בביטחון שיהיה מבצע.
What happens if you fail? We want.
זה חיי אדם, זה לא משחק ילדים.
התלבשנו בסרבנים ויצאנו לדרך.
You do not stop them and let them keep going.
Don't stop them!
You love your wife.
Yes. Yes, I do. Very much.
עמדו עלינו! תראו באלקו!
כדורים ששוקעים בידך. והפסעתי.
אני רציתי לפוצץ את המטוס, את האמת. את האמת.
יש פה מחבלת, יש הרימון! רימון! It was my birthday yesterday. I'm 50.
Happy birthday.
Looks like a really moving film. Now taking a look at local finance, and the shekel today put in a mixed performance, while share prices on the Tel Aviv Stock Exchange were up across the board. Here's a look at the afternoon numbers. Turning to the weather, and I'm really sorry to tell you that our relatively pleasant conditions are about to end starting tomorrow with a slight rise in temperatures as we head into another heat wave. Here's the forecast at home and abroad over the next 24 hours. Thank you for being with us this afternoon. We hope you'll join us again tomorrow, and I'll be back with the latest breaking news from Israel. I'm Erin Viner, wishing you a great evening and shalom from Jerusalem.